Hey, Mama.
Hey, baby.
How you doing tonight?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm great. Listen, we're back for another segment, and we're going to get right into it. Let's see. One of the things I want to talk about tonight is that you were married to Daddy, who was a pastor, right?
Right.
Okay. And in our church, in traditional black churches, not all, the lady who is married to the pastor is called the first lady.
Right.
Okay, so we'll refer to that as to you as such. All right, so I remember that when Daddy was called into the ministry, you know, you became the first lady. He pastored 2 churches, right?
Right.
And that required you to wear many, many hats.
Yeah.
Right, which meant like going with Daddy to all the different churches.
Right.
Ministering to people, you know. And so when people think about the first lady, they oftentimes think about, for lack of a better word, say all the perks.
Yeah.
But they don't know the backside. They don't know the pain sometimes that come with it, the conversations that you hear.
Yeah.
You know, can you talk about what it was like, you know, being the first lady, married to Daddy, you know, maybe going to a church and, you know, hearing things that hurt. Can you talk about that?
Well, one thing about it, when I go to the churches and everything, I stay by distance. And when they go to talking, I don't say anything. I take it in. And I don't sit on to them. I let them talk. They pass notes. They pass this and they pass that and everything. And one of the deacons seen them, you know, passed and everything. And see the girl, when the pastors would talk to them about it, and they thought I told them. They said, no, she didn't tell us. One of the deacons seen it and everything. But I didn't do it. I don't care what they do and everything. I wouldn't say I would.
And then for you guys who are watching this, who are of a more recent generation, this was before cell phones. So now people can text or whatever, and you never know. But back during the time that Daddy was living, you were first lady. The way they communicated, they passed little notes and stuff. So that's how I guess that deacon saw.
Right.
Right. So that had to hurt, though, didn't it?
Well, it didn't bother me because see, when you got Jesus on the inside, he helped you endure hard as a good soldier. And so I just take it and do it and just go on. But see, when I get home, I tell my husband about it and everything, and that's when he pay attention. I said, when you're preaching, you can't see all this what's going on. But I ain't preaching, and I see everything going on.
You saw everything that's going on. Now, let me show you some people something before we get too far into the video. What we did tonight, we put out the hats.
All right.
So these are some hats. Let me back up just a little bit. These are, we like to laugh and say these are Mama's first lady hats.
Yeah.
You know, so if you say, or used to go into traditional black churches, you've seen all this before, right?
Right.
And so these are many, many hats,
right.
You know, and we got one that seems to be an oddball. Let me show you guys this one. We'll talk about this one in just a minute. But you wore many hats.
Right.
Right. So basically you were a confidant for Daddy.
Right.
Right. And then even back then, when they had conferences or meetings, you weren't allowed to go in, right?
And no, I went out because I know I wasn't no member there, and so I went on out. I didn't want to hear what they had going on.
Okay. So back then, too, for some clarification, back then, say you were a member of your home church, you and Daddy, right. But when Daddy was called a pastor, you weren't a member, so you really weren't technically allowed to attend. So you didn't know what was going on in the meetings until Daddy came out, right?
Yeah, but I didn't ask him what was going on.
Okay.
He kept that too, and, you know, that's secret, and so I didn't want to know it.
But you were there to just support him, though, in whatever.
Right.
And so with a lot going on, a lot has changed. I would say for the office of first ladies, because like I said, mostly now they are members of the same church, but a lot has not. I'm sure they hear, members of the congregation, talking about their husbands and their kids. And I know one thing too, from being a PK, a pastor's kid, is that oftentimes we were judged by a higher standard, which, was hard because as kids, you're kids, right?
Right.
Right. And so one of the stories that I know you like to tell, it's funny now. Tell the story about the boys going by the, was it the corner? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, it was the crusade, the boys' crusade.
Mm-hmm.
They was meeting. That was their meeting day, and we had a corn patch. They passed by the corn patch, and they put off a ear of corn, and shuck that corn. I mean, shuck that corn,
Mm-hmm.
and they got the grain and put it in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they went in the church, and when the teacher went to teaching and everything, they taken one of their corn
Mm-hmm.
and popped the hood inside the head. Popped the hood inside the head,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, he hollered, and so the teacher, and they come home and told me, but we always punish our children
Mm-hmm.
when they do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a piece of paper and made him write 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
I must not act in church.
Right. Right.
I must not act in church.
Right.
And if it didn't make him right,
Mm-hmm.
we made him stand in the corner on one leg.
I remember that. And the rest of us
one
be
leg,
laughing.
and you can't take it down.
I remember that.
You can't take it down. And they begged and said, can I stop?
Mm-hmm.
They said, no, you go on a little while longer.
Yeah.
Because you cannot do that in the church.
Right. And it's so funny, that brought up a memory, is that I say you and Daddy were creative disciplinaries, because Daddy could think of some of everything. Because I remember I had done something and I was going to try to get out of it because I did not have any paper, right? So I said, Daddy, I can't write that, whatever. Like if he said, well, you got to write that 500 times or whatever. I will not, whatever. He was bad. He was notorious making you write as a punishment. And so I remember saying that I didn't have any paper. So what he did was he said, guess what? We had paper bags back then for grocery bags. We didn't have the plastic today. So I remember taking paper bags and having to write, and it made us aware of our actions, that there were consequences. And like I said, being a PK's kid, it's funny, people saw what you did, but they didn't see what their kids did, So, but I still thank God that we were raised by you and Daddy, because I always say, I think we had the best parents in the world. And I know if all my 11 brothers and sisters was here, they would say the same thing.
But,
go ahead, Mom.
One thing, I got to put this in there. And one thing, I told them when they go out to church, don't be an actor. I put them on the seat with me and everything, be actor. One of them thought they was show off. He slide up this way and slide up with him. I taken that boy, I put him off my lap, I spanked him, and the preacher said, "Tear him up, sister," and kept on preaching.
Right, because y'all definitely believed in that, spare the word, spoil the child. And so there are parents that don't believe in that, and so we totally respect that each parent, should be able to, discipline their child. We weren't abused by no stretch of the imagination. And like I said, I think, it kept us all on the straight and narrow, and I think we are living proof of that. All right, so now, real quick, because I want to keep this within this hat here, I said we would come back to it. This hat, I couldn't find any of our regular farm hats, because every summer we end up getting new ones because we work in the garden, right?
Right.
And so that's as close as I could find. So now, part of your role as a first lady did not end in the church. It came to what you were just talking about, disciplining us at home, providing for us at home, being a good mother and working. So most of the time, it's people saw you in these hats, right?
Right.
But during the week, No, Mama was out in the field, and she was working because she wasn't, so high and mighty, because she had to feed her family, right?
Right.
So all of that went with it, is that you wore so many different hats, right?
Right.
Right. So guys, that's our history for tonight. Is Mama wanted to share what it was like being a first lady back during that time. And keep in mind, guys, Daddy will have been dead 36 years this year.
Right.
So that tells you how long ago. So all the things that we talked about, they may be different in today's climate or whatever.
Right.
But that was the way of the world back then. So guys, we love you, and we will talk to you later. Please remember to like, share, and save this video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.